Part 12. The Priest. Dennis took it like his due, staggering back.
That wasn't necessary.
It was!
Arthur had flipped right into feral mode.
It fucking was! How dare you drag him into this?
Into this?
Dennis was grinning, his face already swelling.
He is already in. All in. By choice. Or did you forget?
Gentlemen, I'll have to ask you to take your rivalry elsewhere. The young man and I have many things to discuss. My mistress wants me home by the new moon.
The favor was a man?
Can you give me a hand here, kiddo?
Dennis pointed at his face.
Don't you even talk to him after doing this, you scum.
Gentlemen.
Oscar spoke sternly, with a tight, familiar authority that automatically made Luke pull his shoulders back and duck his head.
No.
Dennis evoked an expression Luke had never seen there before, though he had seen it somewhere and recently. A sneer, smug and cruel. Dennis never looked like that. He smiled sweetly when he gutted people. Arthur looked ready to cry or scream or do something very rash.
How can you say that?
I've made my peace with what happened, and I've tried to help you do the same.
You went with her!
Arthur's eyes were wide and blazing.
How could you? After everything we did to free you and Marie.
Not all sheep are friendly. They still need a shepherd.
Arthur turned away and clenched his fists, then looked at Dennis.
This isn't over.
Good. Was getting kind of fieldsy in here.
It was getting what? Arthur shook his head and looked at Luke.
Are you all right?
He wasn't really used to being asked that.
I'm fine.
Son, are you the healer he says you to be?
Oh.
I can heal, sir.
He's very magical.
Arthur sounded threatening.
I can't believe you've done this.
Let's take a walk, shall we? Just around the ring.
You know where it goes?
It isn't my first time in this place.
Oscar just started walking. Luke glanced back once. Arthur was grim as an executioner.
Go on. Oscar won't screw you over.
The butcher winked. Okay, that was just creepy. Luke hurried after Oscar. What else was he going to do?
Quite a bit of drama back there.
Oscar finally said after they'd walked a full third of the arena and Luke never spoke up. Luke still didn't want to speak up.
It was. Do you know why?
Oscar nodded.
I do. I suppose you want to know too,
It didn't sound condescending.
Yes, I would.
Luke raised his chin.
Well, it shouldn't take too long to explain.
Said Oscar, hand in his pocket.
There was a wolf of sorts in my flock. No, I should be plain. There was part of a god, sliced and suffering, hidden in my congregation. It would possess people, feast on their terrible dreams. Quite cruel, even if unintentional.
Luke stared up at him.
Part of a god?
Arthur and I confronted it.
Oscar kept his eyes ahead.
He'd gotten it to trust him, and it had given him a small stone to, well, find another body for itself. In the end, there was only one ethical way to do that.
Luke stared at him.
What did you do?
I took the stone. Arthur couldn't keep it. He already had enough crosses to bear.
This couldn't be the other part of Hastur walked right up to him.
Do you know what god it's from?
I do, but she isn't here.
She. Luke's brow knit.
Do gods get cut up a lot?
I only know of two, Hastur and Lilith.
The names meant nothing to Luke.
Why is Arthur angry about all this?
Oscar winced.
Because he went to great lengths to separate it from me and give it back to its owner. He, Mr. Collins, and I got into something of a scrape in upstate New York, and they had a device. It didn't end particularly well, but at least those who died did not do so alone.
Oscar looked distant for a moment, dwelling.
The device separated me from that piece. Arthur returned the piece to its original self, and then thought I was no longer part of the world that included such things as fragile mortal gods. He was wrong. She is in need of help that none will give because they fear her, and I took up that burden. We all make choices, son. The best choices are the ones that you can live with. Never mind what anyone else says about them being right and wrong.
There was a lot to process here.
So the goddess owns you?
In a way. Not that any of us are truly owned by anyone, but the one true God.
True God? In the dreamlands? Luke glanced over. His expression must have been something because Oscar laughed gently.
There is only one I count as a true God.
If there was only one and he was currently sat in a stained glass tower smearing into the air and ordering people to fight to the death for distraction, then they were all fucked.
But I've seen other gods, and you're owned by one, and you had a piece of one in you.
The God I actually worship is my shepherd. Lilith, as relatively powerful as she is my sheep. She is not without son. She does not know everything. She is, in fact, finite. And more importantly, she's still hurting. Being without part of herself for so long left her unwell. She needs help, son.
Luke knew something about wanting to help a messed up god.
And that makes Arthur angry?
He was still trying to understand.
She has done wicked things. That is what angers him. But so have we all, young or old, and she, like all young or old, can still be redeemed.
The phrase clicked home.
So you're trying to save her?
She can be saved.
He said, grim, looking ahead.
And she will be, before breath leaves my mortal form. Arthur is a good man, and can be compassionate. But this isn't what he wanted for me. He doesn't understand I've found my purpose. The entire reason I exist.
That resonated. That fell right along the lines he'd already been pondering.
Why did Dennis bring you here?
Because I have a little bit of... They call it magic. God gives us all strange gifts, and chances to use them. My gift is I can save lives through healing.
So all of this was a healer thing. It felt like a gear clicking into place.
So can I! I can heal too!
Oscar smiled.
I've been told.
Then the smile faded.
Yet if you're here, you also need to take lives. Yes?
Oh. In all this weirdness, Luke had honestly forgotten. The reminder turned his stomach.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it is necessary. Never easy. The stain of it is terrible. But sometimes, son, allowing wickedness to continue is worse than violating that commandment. So, I am here to help you do that without cruelty, without excess force, and in a way that helps you go stronger. All right?
Oh, this was complicated.
Yes, sir.
Oscar nodded.
Game face on, son. Here's what we're going to be doing.
No one Luke had ever met was like Oscar. He was patient. He listened and taught by example.
I'd never ask you to do a thing I wouldn't do myself.
They spent hours training, practicing on one another.
I trust you, son.
Until Luke started to really understand how this worked. the hand that healed could harm. It made him wonder deep down how often people caused harm when they could heal instead. By the second day, Luke had thoroughly imprinted. Everything was a teaching opportunity to Oscar, and Luke soaked it up. Oscar, it turned out, looked at everyone all the time as if they always required help, and it was in the process of observing this behavior that Luke came to a realization. The buzzing he'd felt all his life, annoying and constant, sometimes too distracting, sometimes louder than people spoke, was his passive knack. People's bodies were always doing things, even when healthy. It was like being aware of the hum from lights, or the constant noise from the brand new refrigerator Phoebe's husband had brought home. It was like the traffic by the bridge, or the wind in the higher parts of San Fran. Unending sounds he hadn't been aware of, but had felt, and now that he knew what it was, he could handle it better, even push it back a bit. That helped a lot. It was easier to look people in the eye when they talked. It was easier to fall asleep. It was just easier. And now that he knew what to listen for, he grew more aware of good normal sounds, of good healthy sounds. Conscious awareness of a thing he'd felt his whole life refined that thing, like baby handwriting transforming to calligraphy. Oscar helped in battles starting that night. There, he did Arthur's healing, showing Luke how to do it on the fly, in action, how to truly pinpoint what was wrong, and avoid pouring too much of himself in when just a drop would do. It was excellent. It was phenomenal. Now, if only Luke could get the 3 adults in his life to get the fuck along. Meals were awkward as hell. Arthur was mad, and Oscar kept soothing him, and Dennis kept coming by and being weird. The butcher, Luke couldn't think Dennis right now, just hung around, wouldn't go away, and kept making comments at Arthur that made no sense.
Looking pretty good there. Only a dozen new scars.
Fuck you.
He won't be moved by that mouth, no matter how pretty.
Go to hell.
So that was obviously going nowhere. Even the way the butcher announced battles changed. Instead of simply saying what battle and how, he'd say stuff like,
"This'll be one hell of a roller coaster,"
in his voice, with his accent. But still, it wasn't him. Luke couldn't find the words to explain it. The arena clearly recognized him. All the other fighters continued deference and training. If Luke tried to say it, he would sound insane. Yes, this man is not the same man, and he's hidden it so well that even a god's semi-aware arena is fooled, and only I know the truth. Sure. Meanwhile, Arthur taught Luke how to throw a punch.
No, like this.
He explained, turning slowly so Luke could see the twist.
What's really doing it isn't your hand at all. It's your whole body, pivoted like this. It's coming from your hips, and hurled in their faces. We know what it's like to have things hurled in our faces, don't we?
And that last was directed at Oscar. Oscar, who just smiled, refusing to take the bait.
Go on, son. Try not to be afraid of pain. I know it is terrible, but it's also repairable.
Luke pulled back and punched again. The dummy swung, creaking.
Good,
said Arthur after a moment, oddly delayed as a lot of his statements were.
Very good. Try again.
Luke studied his sore, reddened knuckles.
Should I heal them after every hit?
Oscar shook his head.
No. Get used to functioning through pain, and used to conserving your magic too. When the time comes to properly heal something, you want to be ready.
That part was weird. Oscar constantly cautioned him against using it all up, and while Luke understood, he'd made that mistake with the King in Yellow after all, it really seemed to him that Oscar was too conservative with it. There was a lot of magic still in him when Oscar called it done, but maybe he was right. Maybe it was better to have a healthy reserve instead of just a trickle. Luke kept his middle cot. Above him, Oscar snored when asleep and sighed when awake. Below him, Arthur complained. Awake or asleep mattered not. Once, Luke caught them talking quietly.
We can still get you out.
Arthur whispered at who knew what time in the morning.
I can word the wish, or we can find another spell.
No. She's my purpose, Arthur. The entire reason I've lived the life I have. And how I will both redeem and reap my choices. She needs me.
She uses you.
Needs me, Arthur.
I know.
Arthur snapped, and not to Oscar that time.
Rest well, Arthur.
Fool.
And it might have been to anyone at all. It came to a head 3 days later. The butcher stood in the ring training warriors, none of whom seemed happy to be dealing with this new Dennis, who broke bones a lot more than he used to, facing off against a monstrous 3-headed thing with 18,000 eyes and horns all along its body. It charged. The butcher laughed. He threw his head back, arms out, chest open, and closed his eyes. The thing crashed into him, slammed, piercing with 1,000 horns, sending blood and gore flying. And the butcher should not have been able to laugh after that, but he did as the monster kept going and rammed into the far arena wall. The laughter stopped.
No!
Luke ran into the ring. The monster stepped back. The butcher was gone. There wasn't so much as a hair. There were no answers, and that was all anybody talked about for the next 2 hours. At dinner, Dennis came back. Just walked right into the dining area scowling and stormed up to their table. He had dust all over him, and his nose was sunburned. He stared at Oscar like he'd seen a ghost.
Can I help you, Mr. Collins?
Oscar meant it.
What the fuck? What happened out there today? Where did you go?
Dennis stared at Arthur for a moment.
I rode through the desert. What are you talking about?
He leaned on the table right in Oscar's face.
And how in hell are you here?
So now everyone was staring, looking confused.
Are you okay?
Luke had some questions.
No, lad, I'm not.
Dennis leaned closer.
You're here, priest. You ought not be. How in fuck are you here?
Oscar looked puzzled.
Son, you've brought me here yourself.
Dennis's eyes went absolutely huge. He said nothing. For a moment, he looked crazy. Then the intensity slid away, and so did his gaze, and he only looked lost.
Gotta check a few things.
He walked away,
So he's fine?
as though offended.
He's just fine?
I don't know if I'd say fine, with that kind of memory loss.
Luke sat, trembling, and did not say what he was thinking. Though it had only been a few days, he was getting used to the hum of people's bodies. They were unique, identifiable like fingerprints or voices. That hum, the hum of the man who had just walked up to them, did not belong to the same Dennis who'd brought Oscar here. It was different. Luke knew what this meant, even though he didn't know how it could be so. Someone had pretended to be the butcher and brought Oscar here under false pretenses. Someone pretended to be the butcher for just long enough to get Oscar established in this place. Then that same someone had just fucked off with ridiculous drama, leaving no explanation. For no reason Luke could pinpoint, his mind went back to the weirdo who'd sent him here, back in Celophaeus. Maybe it was the smirk.
His blood pressure was elevated. Did you notice?
Yes, sir.
Luke had,
Fucking freak.
said Arthur to no one, and no further answers were to be found. The games resumed, and Dennis stayed Dennis. He was himself, if grouchier, and constantly watching Oscar for signs of treachery. Arthur couldn't get Oscar to leave. At least he was less mad. The two men talked about things like New York and the farm, and they talked quietly about their past, and they laughed, sometimes sharing a whiskey, and that was not too bad. Healing was easier than ever as Luke learned how. He understood Oscar's talk about purpose. Without question, healing was Luke's. And one day after Dennis returned, Luke made a choice. Healers, he decided, were shepherds like Oscar said. It was time to visit the damaged god all of this chaos was for, and see if he could help.